Hey folks, Quillyteen here and welcome to Let's Try The Farmer Was Replaced. This is an adorable programming incremental game. Incremental games are number go up games. You know, like stuff like Cookie Clicker would be an example, that sort of thing. But there's not any clicking in The Farmer Was Replaced. Instead, you're going to be writing code, basically Python-style code. This is a great game if you've been wanting to maybe learn programming, but also if you're a programmer and you enjoy programming and want to stretch the old brain cells a little bit, this is a fun little one that you can play with. Of course, the nature of programming games are that they are basically puzzles, and obviously you don't want all the solutions to all the things spoiled for you, but we'll just go through the sort of starting few steps and hopefully sell you on the idea of the fun of this game. So let's go ahead and start. So this is a brand new game. We get this getting started page, which is part of this kind of built-in wiki, which you can access with the I button up over here, including references to the functions that you have access to, which at the start of the game isn't much. We get a couple of silly ones. Do a flip, which does nothing except looks cool. Pet the piggy, which does nothing except it lets you pet the little flying piggy bank. We are this drone over here. Later on, we might have multiple drones. If we take a quick peek at the upgrade screen over here, this is where the crazy magic is going to happen. And in particular, like say we get down here, for example, this lets you spawn even more sub agents along the way. There's lots of different crops to interact with, and they do interact with each other in interesting ways. We can also unlock more programming stuff, but we'll get to that in a little bit. To start off with, we'll do the initial little program. So for example, if we wanted to do a flip, we could do this and I hit play, and then our character makes a flip. And if we go pet the piggy, pet the piggy, and then run this, then we go and pet the pig. These don't do anything, although I think they do give you achievements, which is very fun, but that's about it. Okay, so the big thing that we want to do right now is, because we are supposed to be farming, is we would like to harvest this grass here and get ourselves some hay. So there's a harvest function, and you can see here that different functions can take different amounts of time to execute. A lot of the logic ones take a single tick to go, and most of the ones that do something like harvest, and what we'll see in a minute, move, tend to take 200 ticks to operate over here. So let's say we decide to run harvest, and then we hit play on that. This script will run, and it will harvest that grass, and now we have 1 unit of hay stored up. And if I hit play again, then there we go. We can get up to 5 hay. Now, I told you this isn't a clicking game like Cookie Clicker, so how do we make this a little bit more automated? Well, now that I've got 5 hay, that happens to be the magic number to unlock the very first tech in the tech tree here, which is loops. So if I go and spend my 5 hay on that, boom, very nice. Whenever you unlock something, you do get a help page to explain things. So let's say I turn this into a while loop, while true, harvest, and then hit play. There we go. So we're just going to loop over and over and constantly harvest all this stuff. Oh, lovely. Numbers go up. That's what we're here for. What can we do? Well, we could go and increase our execution speed. Hey, that sounds pretty good. Let's just have all of our code run faster, and therefore we'll get more hay, right? So if I spend 20 hay on speed, then we get the speed upgrade page, but it does point out that there's might be a little bit of an issue going on. And indeed, that's the case. Notice we're no longer getting any hay whatsoever. Our code is running so fast that we're harvesting this grass before it's grown enough for us to get an output. Well, that's no good. What can we do about that? Well, let's add a conditional in here. If can harvest. So only if the thing beneath us can be harvested for output will we attempt to harvest. So now we'll hit play, and now our bot waits a tick, because if this fails, then it just reloops over and over and advances, just the one little tick from the logic until it can do that. So now our speed increase, unfortunately, really isn't giving us the same amount of value, because if we're waiting for this to grow anyway, why would we want it to boost our speed? Well, because one of the next things we can do is expand our farm. So if we do this, we spend 20 grass on that, and now our farm is 1 by 3. It is worth noting that normally expanding will always make a square field, so the next expansion will be 3 by 3, then 4 by 4, and so on and so forth. But this first one does this, probably to keep it really simple. This also unlocks movement commands. So, for example, if we harvest, then we can do something like move north. There we go. And in fact, we actually don't even need right now the can harvest check anymore, because there's no way that we're harvesting fast enough to not get this. And one could also say that maybe the move north should be outside the if check over here, so that, okay, we can't harvest this one, but let me move right away to the next one to see if I can do that. For this particular situation, it really makes no difference which one of those things go, but you want to start thinking about various optimizations at some point, especially as we get to more complicated farming. We can do an upgrade over here if we got the 300 grass to double our yield, which is pretty good. If we want to increase our speed again, which would be nice because we could be using more speed now. We are not harvesting everything as fast as we could. So upgrading our speed would be lovely, but you can see increasing our speed again would require wood. How do we get wood? Well, there's an unlock over here for bushes. So let's go and click that. So we'll spend 50 wheat doing this. And now we can plant bushes. Now, different crops do need different type of terrain. I think everything can grow in tilled soil, but we start with grassland. What's special about grassland is it doesn't need to be planted. Grass grows here automatically. But let's say we wanted to change this. So I'm actually going to put a little stop here. I'm going to rename this script over here is just going to be for, say, grass. That's how we grow grass. Let me make a brand new script over here for us to grow wood. So we're going to need something slightly more complicated here. We'll still do while true. And now what we're going to do is we'll still do the if can harvest, just to make sure nothing weird is going on. If we can harvest, then we will harvest. But then instead of simply letting grass regrow, we are going to plant entity bush. And then we're going to move north. So I guess we're still going to get a little bit of grass harvest because that's the first thing we're going to do. But then it's going to replant the bush. You can see after we do the harvest, and you can see now we're waiting a little bit. The bushes take longer to grow. After we harvest the bush, grass shows up for a split second because on grassland, grass grows immediately. But then we immediately replace it with the plant here, and it's not really an issue as far as I know. So if we go and wait until we get 20 wood, then we can get a speed boost. Now, the speed boost isn't really going to help us with the wood harvesting because you can see we're still waiting on things. So I think the best thing to do, in fact, would be for us to expand the farm. So I'm going to do this first, spend 20 wood expanding the farm. Now we've got horizontal rows to go through. So let's update our script over here. Also, I didn't actually address it, but it's quite clear that if you move north from the northern edge of the map, you do loop around. But now what we want to do is we kind of only want to loop north 3 times. So let's make a bit of a logic change. We're going to do a 4i in range, and it's 3. So we're going from 1 to 3 over here. Or 0 to 2, whichever. But we can also go get world size, which get world size will be returning 3. This doesn't return like 3 by 3 or anything like that, because again, after this first upgrade, it's always assumed that the world is square. So this will return 3. So we're going to do a pair of loops. We're going to move this over like this. So now we're going to move vertically 3 times. And then after this for loop is done, what we're going to do is move east. And the east east and west has the same sort of wraparound. So if we do this, it should grow 3 in a row vertically and then move east and then do that. And depending on where we started it, it didn't start in the bottom right corner or bottom left corner. So it looks a little odd, but it's clearly working perfectly fine. So now we're harvesting wood faster than before. And in fact, these guys are waiting to be harvested. So if we went and did another speed upgrade here, this is going to continue to work well, and we are not waiting at any point. Things are clearly progressing very nicely, and we're harvesting wood that much faster. Lovely! All right, let's let this go for a tiny bit, and then see what our next plan is going to be. We are going to need more grass at some point, so we're going to want to harvest more hay so that we can grow grass even faster. You can see the next speed upgrade, in fact, the next expanse upgrade here does need carrots. So we should talk about carrots. I'm not going to unlock them necessarily immediately. Well, maybe we will. We do need resource to grow the carrots. I suppose we could. All right, let's do the carrots. But we're going to let this script run for a bit because I do need to harvest a bit of resources. Because one of the things with carrots is carrots require 1 unit of hay and 1 unit of wood to plant. They also take a fairly long time to grow. So we might end up with a little bit of waiting in our setup. But one of the other things with carrots is they have to grow in soil specifically. So in addition to unlocking the ability to plant carrots, we have unlocked the ability to till soil. Let's start a new script over here. Obviously, I can keep editing the ones I've got, but the advantage of starting a new one is we can keep the wood script running while we go and focus on our carrot script. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by copying our existing wood one, and then I will change this to plant carrots. Now, the problem with this is these carrots aren't plantable right now because in our setup, we would try to plant carrots on grassland, which we can't. We have to till the soil first. Now, you might think, okay, well, I can do a till command over here. Yes, this will work on the first loop, but the problem is if you till soil, like the tile you till goes from grassland to soil, but if you till soil, it reverts back to grassland. So we don't want to do this. Plus, till does take 200 ticks to execute, so we are not going to want to have this running over and over. So what we kind of want to do is have two separate passes. So let's say I tweak this up and say whatever. Well, let's go I and J in range. I guess I could really copy this and save me a little bit of typing. So range like this, and then we'll copy this a second time right here and call that Y. And then we're going to go and run till, followed by move north and a move east over here. And obviously we've got some code duplication here, which can often be a sign that you should do something else. In fact, we're going to duplicate even more by saying, well, we may as well, on this first pass, we may as well till and plant immediately. And then, yeah, down here, all we want to do is harvest and then replant the carrots. So if we go and stop this, I also think we should have access to the clear command now. Yeah, clear is nice because it's just a reset of the map, which means that when you start your script, everything is kind of where you expect it. And that's kind of handy. So let's try to plant our carrots. Let me rename the script here. These files, these scripts, I mean, it's obviously it's basically Python is the language that we're working with here. And as far as I understand it, these are actually saved as .py files on your hard drive, which means you could work in this in a preferred external editor of some kind. But let's hit play. And there we go. So we're doing our first pass over here, tilling the soil, planting the carrots. And then we're going to go into our regular loop over here where Oh, right. Of course, we're not doing the move north. Hold on. What I want really is to move the move north out of this if thing so that we're properly cycling through. All right. Done, done, done. And this might have been a case of like, maybe we don't want clear because if we do have to make a debugging check, we can do that. So yeah, we're running through, trying to find the next carrot, waiting for growth. And I could set this to wait. Well, I can't actually, because let's say we want to wait in a tile until it's harvestable. So instead of if can harvest, maybe we wanted while not can harvest. Continue. So just sort of loops and waits until the tile that we're sitting on can be harvested. Your bot really only knows what's in a tile, by the way, for like things like can harvest. And there a few other checks that you can do is really just always on the tile we're in. But I can't do a while not can harvest because we haven't unlocked operators yet. Over here, these operators unlock various math operations, but also things like not, and, or, that sort of thing. We'll also be unlocking various sensing functions over here to get position and then num items. This is going to be really relevant to scripts we write later. Here we can unlock variables, arrays, dictionaries, functions so that we can write our own functions, and so on and so forth. There's sort of debugging tools over here. Yeah, and these are script logic tools over on the right. And then we've got extra plant types over here. So let's go and let's expand our farm. Boom. So I was going to say, we'll probably get a bit of a script issue, so let me just reset our script. But now we're running a 4x4 grid, and now, because this is a little bit bigger, almost certainly we won't end up in a situation of sitting on a tile that's not fully grown yet, so there'll be less skipping of tiles. There we go. So that's going to come through quite nicely. And then also, if we end up pairing this with another speed increase, which I'm going to need wood for that, and you can see our wood and hay is nearly done, so we're going to have to stop growing carrots soon. So let's go ahead and do that now. Because there we go. Now we can no longer plant carrots. I guess we can harvest whatever was left over here. Boom, 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 boom. Since we did pay for it. Well, we'll stop that script. Then, yeah, maybe I'll go back to just grow grass. This is a very... Oh, hang on. Right, hold on. I guess what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy from the grass to here. But I'll get rid of the plant because we don't do that with the grass. Oh, I forgot that this is doing that weird thing again. Where it is. There you go. Yeah, just start moving and start harvesting and do this. And probably the next thing I would do is actually save up to 300 hay so that I can get the grass multiplier. Although, You know what I'm realizing? Hang on. I should do wood first. Yeah. Stop. Go for wood. It works fine. It just looks really weird when it goes sideways like that. Bum. And yeah, unlocking the trees would also be very good because you get a lot more wood out of trees. It's just a slightly more complicated script. What do I need to unlock trees, actually? Okay, 50 wood and the carrots. It might be worth, actually, rather than using the 50 wood for the... No, maybe the 50 wood for the speed makes sense first, because we would actually harvest this wood faster, and then the next 50 wood we unlock trees. I think that's probably the case. There's no fast forward over here. You know, it just... You're trying to run as efficiently as you can. If you want to increase the speed, you got to do it through game mechanics. Go... Yeah, I'll do the speed first. Well... Yeah, all right. But I'm going to start at least planting the wood. We don't have the info on it yet, but I can tell you something with the trees. The trees do not want to grow adjacent to another tree. So if we wanted to grow trees, what we would really want to do is we need a slightly more interesting script. So let's do a tree script over here instead of the wood. And I think trees also have to grow in soil. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this first pass where we do this. And then, hold on, we're gonna need senses to run trees. I'm just realizing. Because I need to be able to check what tile we're in. So senses is down here. Yeah, we're not gonna rush that. Because we need to be able to know what tile we're in so that we can offset them so that trees aren't being planted adjacent to one another. Okay, so I'm actually gonna delete the tree script right now because it's just gonna be a distraction. That is not gonna be helpful. And... So, I don't think expanding the farm right now would make a difference because that's not our bottleneck. Yeah, okay. So, I need this and I need this, which is both going to require hay. Yeah, let's stop this, go back to grass. And then I'm going to go and accumulate 300 hay to unlock this. And then accumulate a little bit more to be able to unlock these tools. Yeah, I think that's worth the investment. All right, I have now unlocked operators and senses. So now we can go back to try to make our tree planting setup. So, tree. Again, we're going to till the soil to get this started. But what are we going to plant? Oh, can I unlock functions? Because it would be 35 carrots and then 40 carrots. So the answer is yes, but I need a few more carrots. So let me go and run the carrot script instead. Grow a few of those because it's going to be a lot nicer with functions. Because what I'm going to want to do over here is I'm going to want to have some sort of function. So let's define it up a little higher. Let's define do plant. And so the idea with this function is it's going to determine if it should be planting a tree or not. And we want to plant them so that they're never adjacent to another tree. I think it's just... Can you unlock these now? Right next to each other. I think... Yeah, directly. Okay, I just wanted to double check because I was like, I think diagonals are fine, but what if I'm wrong? Okay, so our do plant code is going to be if get position X plus get position Y modulo 2 is equal to 0 or 1, either way. If we do this... Oh, there we go. I can't plant carrots anymore because we're out of some basic resources. It's fine. Tell you what, go ahead and just plant some wood for a little while we're busy. If we do this, then what we're going to want to do is plant a tree. Plant entity dot tree. And then else, we want to plant anything else, really. We can just pick something. But let's assume that this is a script we're going to want to run that just keeps making wood for us. Well, you know what? The bushes are, I think are going to be obsolete. Let's, and carrots, we do need hay to make sure to manage this, but maybe it's fine. Although I could just go and plant some grass. Now, let's plant carrots, because we'll go through the trouble of tilling the soil anyway. So let's run that, and we've got a separate hay script we can run from time to time. It's going to be okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to do plant. And then, again, we're going to have our main loop, which is going to be like this. And then if can harvest, harvest, and then do plant. All right, let's stop this script. Let's run this one. So we've defined a function. We've got our clear, our initial setup, which does the tilling, and then the harvesting loop. I didn't actually unlock the function code. There we go. Functions. Now let's try again. There we go. All right, good. So now what should happen? There we go. Perfect. We are growing trees on these diagonals. And then picking up some carrots in between. We will run out of hay running this. What we could do is we could run this script so that we do actually throw a little bit of hay in here so that it is perfectly maintaining. Since every carrot requires one hay, we can end up with a perfect ratio. Oh, what the heck? Let's go ahead and do this. So we got our tree thing, and then we'll do something like else if, elif. And here we're going to do very similar, but we're just going to check the X position. So if our X position is even or odd or whatever we're checking for here, then what we will do is we will plant. Actually, we're going to do this. We'll plant carrots, and then we're going to leave the other tile grassland. So some of this isn't going to get planted, but what we need to do here is a check on our till line. If this is equal to 1, no, sorry. If it's, well, there's kind of 2 steps involved here. I'm trying to avoid planting the grass. I guess I can just double up on this if check. I'm not entirely sure I'm doing the cleanest, but if it's a place where we plant a tree, or it's a place where we'd plant a carrot. And I'm sure there's a more efficient way to do this, but on those 2, we will till. And we can still call do plant because it's otherwise going to fall through. Boom. And then, no, sorry, that's got to go here and here and here and there. There we go. Yes, perfect. So if we try this again, it should, there you go. It leaves little grass spots over there, and it saves us a plant operation. But we should have, and this will only be an exact 1-to-1 ratio while we have a map size that is an even number. If we had an odd numbered map size, then it wouldn't be maintaining a perfect 1-to-1 ratio. And actually, the ratio is off completely because I'm realizing now we've got the 200% hay thing. So actually, each one of these hay units is giving us more hay than we need to keep our carrots maintained. But we've got this like nice little, plants everything script operating right now. And again, there's already some efficiencies that we can get, and we don't like code duplication. You do have access. Eventually, you can even do things like import commands, so you can have one script with your shared functions that you import in all sorts of different ways. The pumpkin script is really interesting to run. Pumpkins are funny because they actually merge together in really interesting ways. And to me, the pumpkin script is the first really interesting script I found myself developing. We'll go and spend some wood increasing our carrot output. That seems fine. We can get more hay with some wood as well. And with the hay, oh, there we go. Let's increase our tree input. So with every level, they take slightly different resources to cycle through here. So like the first hay upgrade was based on hay itself, which makes sense because that's all we could grow. But now we are dependent on these other ones. But we can go and keep cycling. So the next thing might be more wood to unlock the next grass level, which is going to be great because then we'll grow grass faster for our trees and so on and so forth. There we go. I'll upgrade you now. And yeah, the wood is going to go up pretty fast because the trees do give wonderful yields. The pumpkins are really interesting because they merge together. The other thing that makes the game really interesting programming-wise, when you get polyculture over here, because then there's this concept of when you plant a plant, it has a desire to have a companion of a specific plant type in one of its adjacent tiles. And you can use this function called getCompanion, which will return the desired plant type and a tuple with the XY coordinates of where it would like that plant. And then if you plant that plant in that spot, then the original one will grow faster. Although this itself will also have a companion. I think sometimes I feel like there's only percentage chance that it's going to have a companion, so sometimes you don't get that at all. But if you incorporate the polyculture into your thing, a plant that has a matching companion, if I said it grew faster, that was actually a misspeak. I think what it does is it gives you 5 times the yield. So it's really strong. And then there's other complications like the way cactuses get harvested. It's a whole other thing. And then we got like this concept of mazes, and like we can also get fertilizer and we can water. Like I can unlock watering over here, and then you can put water in a location for the plants to grow faster. So if I unlock this, you do passively accumulate water. I think, yeah. I'm surprised we're not seeing the resource here. Because I thought we just... Oh, no, there it is. There we go. So we passively accumulate some water, but then we can use water to increase the growth rate of a tile. Each tile has a hydration level, so we can incorporate that. And then it gets even more complicated with fertilizer, because just like water, so I could unlock it now, for example, just like water, we accumulate fertilizer from time to time. And then you can see here, when you use the fertilizer, it reduces the remaining growth time of the plant under the drone by 2 seconds. So we can use this to dramatically accelerate a particular one, especially if we just repeat this. We could run this a few times until something is harvestable. So we can do some weird things. But then there's a chance that a plant can be infected, which gives us weird substance, which opens up more and more and more and more game mechanics. I think this game is really interesting. I suspect that, you know, once you've sort of cleared it one time, then you're like, okay, it's done. I'm satisfied. I have figured this out. You know, go me, but I'm probably done now. But getting to that point is going to be a heck of a thing. The game's not very expensive. I think it's priced quite well. I think it's like 12 bucks Canadian. So probably what, $9.99 or something US, something like that. And yeah, it's a good brain exercise. I had a lot of fun playing this last night and unlocking. I didn't do everything, but I unlocked a good amount of stuff, and I felt very satisfied. In particular, there's some fun optimizations that happens with these data structures, these lists and these dictionaries, because some of their operations, most of the operations are instant or take a single tick, but some of the operations do use a number of ticks depending on how many elements are in there. And when your board gets really, really big, I think the maximum size here is at 16 by 16. I can't remember how big this gets, but it gets quite large. And if you're trying to do very sophisticated things with the polyculture, for example, you can end up with these data set sizes that get quite big and slow things down, and then you're doing like memory optimization at that point, which is really neat. And then yeah, you can unlock these various simulate functions and things like that to help with your debugging, which is a lot of fun. And I don't know, programming is fun. Sometimes programming is very painful, but a lot of times programming is very fun. And yeah, it is great. I guess if I click the unlock pumpkin, you can see there's a little bit of information here. The yield of pumpkins, the pumpkins merge together into larger pumpkins and get a multiplier. So an area of 5 by 5 pumpkins, instead of giving you 25 pumpkins, actually gives you 125. So you actually want the biggest possible pumpkin whenever, but the problem is whenever a pumpkin grows to full size, it has a 20% chance of instantly dying. And therefore you can't merge things. So with the pumpkin code, you end up with a different type of idea where you plant all of your pumpkins, but then you iterate over things. You don't want to harvest just because something can be harvested. You want to go back and loop through, find any dead pumpkins, replant them, keep checking, and at some point you have no dead pumpkins, and then your entire field is just one giant mega pumpkin that you harvest for like ridiculous amounts. And I mean, just like any incremental game, right? These numbers start to get insane. You're collecting things in the millions pretty quickly, you know, and then it goes nuts. And yeah, and then you've got weird things with water and fertilizer that you can interact with. I think this is a really, really fun mental game. I think it's a great way to learn some basics of programming. The game really does do a pretty good job of introducing the programming concepts fairly slowly. Some of the entries will have hints as well that you can go and like uncover. If you don't want the hints, if you want to figure it out yourself, then you just don't click them. They're like sort of spoiler tagged. But if you need the extra help, you can click on that. Anyway, yeah, I think it's lovely. It just hit 1.0, I think, on the 17th. Oh, no. Sorry, that was back in October that it hit 1.0. It had been in my queue for a little while. There's something else I want to play today that just hit their 1.0 today, so I'm getting confused between the two. But yeah, I think it's swell. That's it. That's all. I'm not going to do any more videos here because I don't want to just turn this into a bunch of spoilers for copy and pasting, because where's the fun in that? Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.